Hey, good morning. It's Mark here. Another morning rant. 3:59. We back at it, people. All right, look, let's get into some news. First, let's talk about my good co-host. Well, good co-host. Let's talk about a good show host, a good journalist, good brother, good man. My boy Roland Martin. He was on ABC News, and they were discussing anniversary of 9/11, terrorism, and how we need to focus more on domestic terrorism. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that surmised that this country would tear itself. This country would only be defeated by itself. I want to say just like Rome. Rome lasted 400 years, and we're like halfway there. And Rome got so large, it was like a pyramid scheme for the most part. They kept growing and growing and growing until they did not what's the word I'm looking for here? Rome kept expanding. They kept taking territories, but they did not bring those people into their culture. They just, and it's not saying that that's indoctrination, because it's a tricky situation here. America is known for its individualism. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. So we've been cultivated to love this country, even though we're all different, even though we come from different parts of the globe, even though we come from different parts of the of our nation, we still give allegiance to one place, and we're not continually expanding. Rome, they expanded, but they never gave the people that they conquered a sense of being a part of Rome. Rome was a distant memory to most people, and so you had outside influences that came in, to include a lot of bad emperors and Caesars that were just out there killing people and doing a lot of things with their finances and everything. They pretty much destroyed itself from the inside. And one of the main things I believe that destroyed Rome was when it split in two. When Rome in the east was Rome, and they sent another emperor to the west, and they pretty much split the country and split the nation in two. But I digress. Let's listen to Roland Martin and Christie go at it, because Roland Martin's going to call this guy out for what happened on January 6th. Let's get into it, people.
Former President.
You know what? My bad. I forgot to refresh this thing before I started talking. All right.
No, I'm on a course to try to make sure that my party remains rather relevant in the political conversation in this country.
Maybe it is becomes. Aren't majority? You're seeing more and more Republicans are now saying they're buying in to the conspiracy theorists.
In the end, I do think that it's moving in the other direction. I think it'll continue to move in the other direction. And what that speech was all about was to repeat what I said with you on election night. At 2:30 a.m. on election night, when the president made the speech that he made, President Trump made the speech that he made, I said it was unfounded and that there was no evidence of anything like what he was talking about, and he needed to stop. And
since then, it's taken hold among Republicans.
It's taken hold among some Republicans, George. But I think what you're seeing.
Roland Martin's laughing because he knows it's taking hold of majority of Republicans. That's why Roland Martin is laughing.
What you're seeing over the course of time as this continues to move past
get his ass, Roland.
Election night and the emotion of an election is that more and more people are saying that that's not true. And by the way, it's also incumbent upon all of us in the party who don't believe it's true to speak out. Because you're not going to convince everybody overnight. The same way we're having the conversation about vaccines, and you're not going to convince certain people of certain things. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with friends of mine who are smart, good people who aren't vaccinated.
So are you getting blowback?
I mean, listen, a little bit, but much more praise than blowback for the speech. And so, but in the end,
get his head, Roland.
Speech to either get praise or worry about blowback. You say what you believe. That's what I try to do here every week when I'm on. And I said what I believed on Thursday night, and it's what I'm going to continue to believe.
I just think for 4 years we watch Republicans either be silent or be complicit in the building of the monster that is Trump. And even post-Trump, there are still Republicans who are bolstering him, supporting him. So I feel like too little, too late. The reality is real leadership is stepping up to the man at the time he was in the seat and saying that we won't budge. And there was none of that. And unfortunately, I don't know what the future of the Republican Party is. There's so many folks who are now swinging closely. We think about the 47 states that have legislation trying to keep people from voting based on the big lie that we know was not true. We think about January 6th and the insurrection that happened on the structure of democracy itself and democracy. And there are Republicans who don't want to have an investigation into that.
Get it,
The Republican Party is way far gone, and unfortunately, too little, too late.
Hold on, I want to get another Republican perspective here from.
I don't want. Let's get to Roland.
Chris believes the party's over time moving in his.
I'm sorry, Republican Party, they made their choice. And I appreciate the speech, Governor, but the reality is this. You have to admit, Sarah, you have to admit the role that you played in putting the person in leadership who is driving conspiracy theories. It's one thing to condemn them after the fact, but you have to own up to the role that you played in putting the person in power. The time
we both ran campaigns against
No.
First off, I don't admit anything to you.
Can I finish?
He's upset. I don't have to admit anything to you. He's going to come with insults. But Roland's going to hit him with facts. Let me show you what Roland's talking about. That's what he's talking about. When that man was losing the election, what did he do? He was one of the first candidates for president that was losing the election to drop out and support Donald Trump. He was one of the first because he thought by going and supporting Donald Trump, because this was his last year as governor of New Jersey, he thought that by going and supporting Donald Trump that he can possibly get a cabinet position or attorney general or something like that. He was looking for another job. Lucky for him, he got ABC News. I think there's a photo of him. Well, that's him right there in the White House with the president, giving him advice and counsel. So, and every time, this is him at the White House. Well, not at the White House, but this is him meeting with Trump to get a cabinet position, to interview for a cabinet position. So, and then I can show you videos of that man defending the Muslim ban and a lot of other things that Donald Trump did over the 4 years that he had. So that's why that's why he's upset, and that's why Roland is lighting his ass up. Let's get it.
You, and second, I ran against Donald Trump.
So?
You ran against him, but when a person has principles, morals, and values, they do not support them even if you lose.
Exactly. And let me just say, let me just get a little humble brag here. You see this ring right here? I love it. That's his fraternity ring. I met up with the guy that made that ring, and he's making me a graduation ring. I can't wait to get it, but I'm sorry.
What they say is, I choose patriotism and the country over party and power. And the problem was too many Republicans chose power in riding with Donald Trump as opposed to patriotism in America.
I'll sleep fine tonight with you judging my morals.
Well, guess what?
See. He said that. He said that with the little smirk on his face, because he's saying I'll sleep well at night, knowing that I have you judging my morals, as if to say that Roland Martin has no morals. That he can't defend it. He can't defend it.
As a voter who has 13 nieces and nephews, what I also want to see in America are Republicans and Democrats who have the guts to stand up to narcissists, to folks who lie, to folks who sit here and lead a country in the wrong direction. And what that man has unleashed on this country, any Republican who stood with him has to own it and accept the role that they played.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'll accept the role that I played in the 2016 election running against him, and I'll accept the role...
Let him finish his point now. Let him finish his point.
And I'll accept the role that I played in my belief that Hillary Clinton was not the right person to be president.
So Hillary's not, but that guy was?
We all get to make choices, Roland, in this democracy. I made my choice. I'm on record of my choice, and I'm not walking away from my choice. But it does not preclude me from being able to be critical when the person that I did support does things that I am against. And so this false choice that you're trying to set up, it's a false choice, and one that the American people are not going to buy either.
Roland, let me just press one other point. Right now, I would argue that the fact that so many Americans can't buy into simple facts is probably...
So, what? What he was trying to say, well, I would say this. It's true. What he said was true. You can criticize those you support. But what Roland was saying was, you shouldn't have supported the man in the first place. You shouldn't have supported him in the beginning. Because a man like Donald Trump, we've seen what he is. We've seen what he's done. Now, there's a lot of stuff that Hillary Clinton has alleged to have done. We can go, well, one of the things that we know for sure is that she called black kids, not black kids per se, but she called drug dealers child predators. She wasn't talking about, and we can go find the clip, but I'm not gonna say what I think she said because you can go find the clip. But she mentioned drug dealers being child predators, like they go out and they hunt for children. And in some cases, that's true. Some drug dealers were out trying to get kids addicted to the shit, and they had children selling it. I got an audiobook of a guy who started out as a young kid selling drugs, 13, 14 years old. Give me a second here. The crack era. Kevin Childs and Richard Ray Esquire. Don't want this name to play. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. I've already read the book, but yeah. Kevin Childs talks about when he was young. And then there's another book I got here. Give me a second. Because I've read this book also. I ain't gonna say, well, I've listened to it, but I haven't read it. I've listened to it. I have another book. I want to get the name of it. But it also it was called Sex, Money, Murder. And those were kids, 13, 14, 15 years old. I can't find it. I want to show you the yep. So they started out as children, but as young 14, 15 years old. And like, I'm listening to like Sex, Money, Murder, for instance. I'm listening to the book, and I'm not realizing that these people in the book were, 16, 17 years old. Until he was like, well, I was 18 at the time. I'm like, wait a minute, you're 18 now after what you... It's crazy. But Roland Martin was saying, hey, you have got to accept what you did. If you had morals and conviction, you would never have supported them. Just like Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, who knew, I did a video about that years ago. Mitt Romney knew what this man was about, and he still supported him. And even after all that stuff, he still met with him again to try to get a job from him. Couldn't get a job from him, but I can show you the photo. He went out to dinner with him, and Donald Trump made him look dumb. that's when he decided to run for Senate. He looks like he does not want to be at that table. He does not want to be at that table. But he still supported them. Republicans have to own up to the monster that they created. And Donald Trump is not. Donald Trump is the personification of what white America had become and is becoming. But second, we got to go to this guy. I'm starting to hate this guy more and more. I really am. I'm sorry. And I'm going to put this over here because we're going to get into that too. This guy, he is talking. Let me see if I can get rid of the commercial part. He is talking about not trying to help the Democrats pass a $3.5 trillion budget.
Speaker Pelosi to Leader Schumer have all rejected that call for a pause. Schumer says it's full speed ahead in the Senate.
He wants a strategic pause, and they're calling for full steam ahead. So
it can't pass the Senate without your vote. So where do things stand right now?
Well, George, I've been very clear, I think, and I think a strategic pause is necessary right now. We have the unknown, and the unknown is everything you've been talking about. COVID, what's going to happen with COVID, what it'll do to the economy. No one's talking about inflation or debt, and we should have that as part of the discussion. And then the geopolitical, what's going on around the world and what type of challenges we may face. So the unknown is there, and we don't know what that's going to partake. What we do know is that basically the need for this, the emergency to do something in the next week is not there. We've done $5.4 trillion, George, over the last year and about a year and a half. $5.4 trillion. A lot of that money is still going out the door. There's no one going to be left behind for the rest of this year and most of next year. So the urgency, I can't understand why we can't take time, deliberate on this and work.
Back in January, you proposed spending $4 trillion on infrastructure. So what changed?
Well, you're talking about that was about 4.5 trillion they had talking about. Is that what you're talking about? What the
president? Yeah, you were saying we've spent about
having both of those put together. And I said from day one, these are two complete different categories. The one we have in front of us right now that's already passed in a bipartisan way with 19 Republicans, George, is the hardcore infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, internet, water, sewer, all the things that have been neglected for the last 30 years. The president went out and campaigned on this. He went out and sold this thing. We all got behind him. We had a bipartisan deal. And I think it's the greatest thing that we could do. That's the one that has the urgent and emergency that we have. Let's get that one done. It's sitting over in the House right now.
But if the bill is fully paid for and doesn't add to the deficit, the unknown that you're concerned about, one of them is inflation. That's not really a concern, is it, if the bill is fully paid for?
Well, George, basically, if the bill is fully paid for, why did they put $1.7 trillion of borrowing power in the language?
But wait a minute. You put a $1.5 trillion bill on the Senate floor and you passed it. So I put this up here for a reason. I've talked about this before. According to this website, and it could be wrong, it could be, I don't believe it's as accurate as it should be, but this is one of the websites that show the national debt. And look at that number up there. $28.7 trillion in debt. 28.7. And if you go back to Clinton, when the debt was $5 trillion, and you look at what's happened in the last 20, 25 years, it's like, whoa, we're in trouble. However, if they pass a bill that's fully paid for to include the 1.7 he's talking about, why is he changing his mind? What is it about this guy that he's changing his mind? You got Christian Sinema in Arizona, and you got Joe Manchin in West Virginia, and these two are blocking everything that the Democrats are trying to do. Give me a second here. Understanding the the infrastructure bills. Now, let's go into what's actually in those bills. This the $1.2 trillion bill right here. You got $110 billion for roads and bridges. You got $66 billion for railroads, $65 billion for the power grid. Now, I would tell you this: we should put more money in railroads and more money in the power grid. I digress. $65 billion for broadband. That should be expanded because there are a lot of poor places, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, some of the Midwestern states who do not have broadband, and a lot of America, which would include a lot of poor white folk, do not have access to broadband. And because they don't have access to broadband, a lot of kids cannot do any kind of homeschooling if they had a chance. I remember my wife and I, when we were in North Carolina, when the pandemic hit and they were closing down schools, we saw children, black and white, sitting outside of Walmart, sitting outside of McDonald's, because they did not have Wi-Fi at home. So, or they could not afford Wi-Fi at home. So expanding broadband is going to be helpful to a lot of Americans. $55 billion for water infrastructure. That needs to be fixed. And further down, it'll show you why. $47 billion for cybersecurity and climate change. $39 billion for public transit. That should be increased. $25 billion for airports. That should be increased. $21 billion for the environment. That should be increased. $17 billion for ports. That should be increased. $11 billion for safety. Now, safety is a broad appropriation here to address highway, pedestrian, pipeline, and other safety areas where, with highway safety getting the bulk of funding. $8 billion from Western water infrastructure, and there it is. You have a lot of droughts going on in the western states like California, Arizona, Nevada. $8 billion for Western water infrastructure is paramount. I think that should be increased, and Christian Cinema should be on that because that's in her area. I think $7.5 billion for vehicle charging stations and electric school buses. I think that should be increased because one of the reasons why we do not have electric cars, we had hydro cars back in the 1890s, early 1900s, but the powers that be, the Carnegies, the Fords, the Rockefellers, who were in the oil business, they pretty much shut down water. Hemp was a rope making plant. But they took hemp and they made it bad and they made it a Schedule A drug, and now you can't use hemp for anything. And you can go deeper into that too. But we should have, in the Marine Corps, I've seen gas-powered buses driving recruits back and forth. Why do we not have natural gas-powered buses? The government does it first. Why don't we have natural gas-powered cars on the roads? Why don't we have more electric? And once we get, right now you can find a gas station on every corner in America. Once we get charging stations to be something similar to that, we'll get rid of petroleum-based gas. And that's what the $3.5 trillion is for. $135 billion for Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, trying to prevent forest fires. They look at this like AOC's progressive socialist agenda. $332 billion for Banking Committee, including investment for public housing, housing trust fund, housing affordability. $198 billion for energy national. To develop clean energy, I'm telling you, I said this before in many of my videos, that if we don't make the investments now, it's going to cost more later. This should have been invested, $198 billion, that should have been invested when it was only $5 billion, when it was $100 billion. When it was $3 billion. Now it's at $198 billion. I promise you, if we do not develop clean energy now, we're going to be spending $1 trillion in a couple of years. We got to do the investments now. We got to make the investments now, or we're going to pay double when it really comes down to it. $67 billion for environment, public works, low income solar. If we can get the sun is the most natural the most abundant natural resource that we have. Think of all the solar power that we waste. And if they can take public housing, if they can take the projects and the ghettos in America and the what's what I'm looking for, the gentrified areas, the gentrified homes, the low income houses, the Section 8 homes, if they can take those homes and put solar panels on them, it'll save this country so much money. It'll save this country a lot of money, because now you have those houses generating their own power from the sun. We're wasting so much sun. If we took, and I saw a video about solar panels. If you can take this a state the size of Arizona and fill it with nothing but solar panels, and that state about the size of Arizona, if you put solar panels in that whole state, you can power the entire world for what it costs. Well, to power the entire world for a year, what it costs to power the entire world for like 30 days. We are losing a lot of sunlight. $1.8 trillion for the Finance Committee. This part of the bill is investments for working families, the elderly, and the environment. Healthcare, $726 billion for healthcare, education. You know what's crazy? Looking at all this money, this is nothing. This is nothing. $18 billion for veteran affairs. That should be increased. $25 billion for small business. That should be increased. Looking at the 3.5 trillion. Looking at the 3.5 trillion. And he's upset. Joe Manchin's mad that they're spending 3.5 trillion. But we spent $8 trillion in Afghanistan for a war we lost. That money could have went to, you could have gave every teacher in America a raise. I speak with a little bias here. You could have gave every teacher in America a raise. You could have increased the minimum wage. You could have did so much with that $8 trillion. You could have made it so every child in this country got college funded for college. We spent $8 trillion in Afghanistan. And a part of that, let's go back to the national debt clock. $8 trillion of this $28 trillion could have gone to fund schools, fund teachers. You have got to see my classroom. I don't want to go past 2 minutes, but 30 minutes, but you have got to see my classroom. I start teaching on Wednesday. And $8 trillion could have gone to fixing up the schools and the low-income schools in America. But he's concerned at 3.5. Now all of a sudden you're concerned about 3.5? So what the Democrats are proposing is, if you don't support our 3.5, Joe Manchin, we're not going to support your tax bill or whatever you want. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care. I could have kept going, but like I said, I don't want to go past, because George Stephanopoulos talked about Bernie Sanders and all those guys refusing to help him get his legislation passed if he don't help them get their legislation passed, and he didn't care about it. You can go watch it for yourself. He didn't care. Well, they're not going to do it. They're going to fund mine, but I'm not going to fund theirs. Anyway. And there's a lot more stuff going on. It's September 18th. There's supposed to be a Saturday? They're supposed to have a rally. GOP supporters of Donald Trump are supposed to have a rally in Washington, D.C. again. So they're concerned about that. It's a lot going on in the news. I think North Korea just fired off a missile or something. So it's a lot we need to be paying attention to. But this is something else. But hey, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm about to hit 30 minutes. Today is Monday. Like I said, I got 2 more days at this job. And then on Wednesday, I start teaching, jumping in feet first And oh my goodness. But anyway, I'm gonna get up out of here, people. You guys have a great Monday. Have a great week, and I will see you on the next one. And hey, the reason why I salute with the left hand is because my right hand is here, and I don't want to hit the microphone. So that's why I salute with the left hand. So you guys have a great week, great day, and I'll see you on the next one. All right. I'm out.